Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about using brushes and how the sort of brush tool works. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to make a new layer. So if you go up to File, New, we're going to go ahead and make a new layer. And the big thing you want to watch out for is your resolution here. And remember, you always want to work at a resolution that's high enough for your output. So wherever you intend to send this thing in the end, sort of the highest end place you intend to send it, you want to work at that level. So if I look at this and let's just say I'm going to work with US paper, I'll go, let's say 10 by 8. And then the resolution here, if it's only going to go to the screen, if you're never going to print it, you can work at 72 dpi. And you can just go ahead and convert this into pixels. But if you're going to print this thing, say you wanted to print it out someplace, it's always better to work at a higher resolution. So I'm going to work at 300 pixels per inch. Sometimes you can get down to 240 or so, and that'll work just fine. I'm going to make the background contents white, and I'm going to click OK. So kind of have my page there, right? And so one other thing to know is that Photoshop has these workspaces that are built into it. And if you want to, you can go up here and switch the workspace to the different places that you might be the different things you're kind of doing. So they kind of have a preset workspace for you. So I'm going to click on the painting one, and you can see that that brings all the stuff that you're probably going to need if you're painting up there. So a lot of times what people like to do is they like to start with a sort of a photo that they begin with, or a reference sketch, something like that, so you can scan in something. You can make a sort of start with a base photo, whatever it is you want to do, but just make a selection like I'm doing here on our cat that we're using for all of our examples. I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to paste that into my new document. And it looks like it's about the right size, but if I want to resize it, I could just transform it and move it around until it's kind of at the right scale. So, once you've applied the transformation, you can move it where you want to. So now I have this layer. And the beautiful thing about Photoshop and Illustrator as well is that you can work in layers. So if I just build a new layer on top of this one, and if I go in here and just crank the opacity down a little bit on that cat, it'll let me kind of sketch over the top of it. As long as I know which layer I'm working on, I'm all set. All right, so once you have kind of your document all set up and ready to go, you just want to select the brush tool. And the brush tool has some different things underneath it. I would mostly just stick with the brush tool when you're a beginner for sure. So we'll do that. And then just select a brush. And so probably the easiest way to get to a brush is always up here in the top left corner. And if you just select kind of like a normal brush, just kind of a classic brush, and then you just crank it down the size that you want it to go down to. Like, so I'm going to start, let's say 25 pixels. And then the hardness here is how fuzzy the edge is. So over here you can kind of see there's a fuzzy edge on it, and that's a 0 hardness. If I crank it up to 100%, the marks that I make are going to be really they're going to look like a marker or something like that. If I crank the hardness down to 0, I should get a much fuzzier edge on that. So for example here, you can kind of see this fuzzy edge that kind of comes along there. So once I have, so let's just go ahead and make a selection of like just a simple kind of a brush. I'm working with a tablet, so a Wacom tablet. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a brush that's a little bit more, that gives me some pressure sensitivity. So one thing that you can do is you can make new brushes over here. You can also make all the adjustments that you want to. So I'm just going to go down here and get a calligraphic brush. So I'm going to click on that. Just tell it where to save it. And so now if I grab this one, the 7-inch brush, and the harder that I push down, the darker and thicker that mark is going to get. So again, maybe it's a little easier to see with number 15 here. So it's kind of like you're drawing with a pen that is, that is dipped in this green ink. So once we get all of that stuff ready to go, once you kind of have your settings the way that you want them to, remember that you can always go in and there's a million different ways to adjust all of the stuff that's available here. But once you get everything set up the way you want it to, we can start drawing. So I'm going to click on some different kinds of like options that you have here. So there are all these different options. So if you want to go ahead and click on like shape dynamics, you can do that, and it'll give you adjustments on that. There's all these different things that you can do with these different brushes. So if you look here, even in this menu, we have all these different brushes that are available to us. We just have a whole bunch of them that you can get to if you ever want to open up sort of the place where you can work on it. It's right there. So let's get, if you ever want to add new brushes, you can go in here and just add those in also. Like you can come down here and click there, and I can load in some more brushes, and there's like a million places you can save them, and you can get all the presets that you want to there. So that's kind of how this thing basically sort of works. So we'll come back here in a minute and I'll start painting.